using Facebook anymore. Don't use Facebook to tell everyone you're done using Facebook. Just don't use Facebook and stop being crazy.
Welcome to your Wednesday afternoon therapy. I'm going to be your host today for your Wednesday therapy session here on a hump day in the middle of the week. Yep, you've made it halfway through the week, so welcome to the show, those of you who are tuning in right now. And if you happen to be catching this on the flip side on the replay, welcome. Thank you for sharing your earbuds and your screen with me this afternoon. We've got a great topic this week. We've got a topic that I think a lot of people have opinions on. That certainly came true when I posted a poll over on LinkedIn yesterday, so we'll get to those results in a moment. So if you're just tuning into the show, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let me know that you can hear everything okay. All that technical stuff is out of the way, that you can hear me, that you can see me, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you wouldn't mind too, let me know if you've caught the show before, if you're a repeat guest, or if this is the first time that you've ever watched this show. If you're a repeat guest, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in again. We've been at this a little over a year now. We started this on April Fool's Day of last year, right as the pandemic started to really kick in. And it is a way for me to have therapy. This is a way for me to give back to the business community that I hold so dear. And it has been a labor of love over the last year. This is the Do What Is Necessary live stream. And this is about not the hustle and grind, the 10x this and 10x that mentality that's being pushed around and has been gospel for so long. This is about doing what is necessary for you. Because what's necessary for you looks different from me. It looks different from the next person. But that's what this show is about, is taking a second look, perhaps, at some of the perceptions and some of the things that we've taken as to what our life should look like, what our business should look like. This is about doing, like I said, this is doing what is necessary for you. So if you never watched the show before, this is the back behind the scenes tour of the Orange Nomad Studios. So I would just want to say welcome. Again, let me know that you can hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up, put it in the comments. I really appreciate those of you who tune in live. So I just wanted to also give a shout out to Ecamm. If you're curious as to what we broadcast this show on, we've been using Ecamm Live for over a year. So definitely check out Ecamm Live, orangenomad.com/Ecamm. You can snag yourself a 14-day free trial of this amazing tool that we use to broadcast this show and to go global. You'll see as we have the show goes on that people tune in from all over the globe. And I just want to say thank you for, again, sharing your screen, sharing your earbuds with us this week. So welcome back to the show, Bruce Skinner. Second week in a row. We want to thank you for being a repeat guest. We're appreciative. I know that you're a busy person. You're running your own company. And I know that Wednesday afternoons get pretty crazy for some people, but we just want to say thank you. Thank you that you're tuning in again this week. So, all right, so I just want to ask this question too. This is the poll that I put up on LinkedIn yesterday. And I asked the question, do you think that work-life balance is achievable? And this isn't my definition. This is your definition of whether or not you think that work-life balance is actually achievable for you. And I can't answer that for you. But it was interesting. And again, put that in the comments, your answer to this question before we get rolling into our discussion. We want to open a discussion about whether or not we think this is achievable and taking a second look at maybe what our definition of work-life balance is, what it can be. So we definitely want your opinion. It's conversation. That's what this show is about, is starting conversation and starting dialogue about subjects that some people don't want to touch sometimes. So, All right, so I'm going to flip over, and I want to go to the poll in real time over on LinkedIn. So let's take a look at this. This is just a few minutes ago. I hit refresh on this page. So this is the question that I ask, and looks like we're about 80-20. 80% of the people say yes, that work-life balance is possible. 20% said no. So this is 273 votes and 6,503 views, and I posted this a little over 24 hours ago. So in a little over 24 hours, 6,000 people, and 300 of those decided they want to give their opinion whether or not they think that this is actually feasible. So, and this opened up the discussion. If you followed me, if you've joined in on the conversation, thank you. If you voted over on LinkedIn, thank you. Because I appreciate that everything that people contribute when I do these polls. I don't do a lot of them, but I like to get, whether or not I'm thinking on the right track. And it was great because this actually opened up some conversation and some dialogue around the topic. And I got into some interesting conversations with people about whether or not what the definition of work-life means to them, whether or not they think it's feasible, whether that's even the right question to ask. But again, this is about starting conversation. So I'm going to flip back over. So let's just go to our comments here. Bruce says, yes, he has the day off. He has a great team and easily can take the odd day off. So kudos to you, my friend, that you've built systems and process inside your business to allow that to happen. So it sounds to me like that you're on the right track to getting that work-life balance. So again, this is one of those elusive things. You can also take vacations, no worry. So again, hats off to you, my friend, because I've run businesses in the past where I feel like I can't step away from the business, and that work-life balance has been elusive. And I ran my own IT business been in the IT channel for 30 plus years, but I ran it at full-fledged MSP for 10 years up until 2014. But again, work-life balance, what it meant to me then, what it means to me now has changed. And that's what I want this discussion to be about today, is whether or not that's changed for you, and whether or not you think that that's actually achievable. So the core of this discussion this was an article that was posted on LinkedIn a few weeks back that I had tagged, and I actually went back and read the article last weekend. This is on BBC.com, and this was the title of the article, Why It's Wrong to Look at Work-Life Balance as an Achievement. And what I really want to do is kind of break down some of the things that were in the article, because it helped me, and I think that it can help others that may still find that to be a challenge, who believe that work-life balance is achievable, but sometimes we just get stuck trying to figure things out. And that's what I want to do, is just, again, talk about some of the things that I found helpful in the article. So if you've suffered that in the past, if that's something that you want to achieve or that you want help with, please put that in the comments. Again, I just want to see what things resonate as we go forward in this subject. But the title of the show for this week is Work-Life Balance, Do We Have It All Wrong? All right, so there were a few things that jumped out to me at the beginning of this article, and really for me, this was how I have typically viewed work-life balance in the past. Is it is a goal to have. It has been something that we work towards, and for me, it's been kind of cut and dry in the past. I either achieve it or I don't achieve it. And that it creates a little bit of stress sometimes when we look at it that way. And then when we finally reach that, we think that we've got work-life balance, we kind of pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, congratulations, you've made it to be a successful human in the 21st century. And when I've looked at that, and there have been times, even running this business when we've started it, where I feel like things have kind of gotten off track, where I'm working a little bit more. But I changed a different view of it, and this article really helped me kind of split that up. Just give you a quote in this article. We often tell ourselves, I'm going to put in 8 hours worth of work, then I'm going to put in 8 hours worth of me time, which might include family, hobbies, workout, my everything. And that's how I've typically been approached work-life balance in the past, that it's kind of a 50-50 split. We kind of have this formula in our head. Sometimes it's not 50-50. Sometimes it might be 60-40. But what I found is that there's no quick formula, and that's one of the things that this article picked out. There's no way to really put a simple formula around whether or not you've achieved work-life balance. And if you agree with that, if that has been your approach, that you've kind of taken a 50-50 approach, or 60-40 or 70-30, whatever that formula is, if that has typically been your approach, let me know that in the comments. Because I think that for the majority of people, that has been the approach. That it's just a formula that we have in our head, and when we feel like we've achieved that, then we've kind of reached our goal. But what we find is that what is in our mind and the perception of our family and those around us, our friends, is a little bit different. And I like this point that the article made, to stop thinking about work-life balance as an achievement that you either hit or you don't. Instead, they suggest it may be more of a lifelong process, a continuous, never-ending exercise that requires vigilance, self-awareness, and timely tweaks. And for those of you who have commented, that might be watching the show today, who commented on our poll, this was one of the things that tended to come up, that people said that it changes, and for them that it's different, and it's just that definition. We all have our own definition, and there isn't one that's right and there isn't one that's wrong. It is what is necessary for you. And that's why I wanted to bring this subject up. And really the point of this show is about questioning the assumptions that we've had around work-life balance, around self-awareness, and taking steps to move in that direction. Because I think, for the last year, that this has really been flipped on its head, work-life balance, because there's no separation. For a lot of people, there's no separation between work and family because you're working from home. Now, I've been doing this for a while. We've been working from home for, 7 or 8 years. This wasn't anything new, but I have found that it has gotten a little more complicated over the last year, just because of the level of people we're trying to help during this crisis, and some of the things that we've had to pivot even inside of our own business, due to, just listening to what the market needs are, and what services and what things that people need from us. But it has helped. It has helped in looking at this as I read through the article, and I thought about over the last year that, that self-awareness for me, for a lot of people, has really picked up. That we've had extra time to really think about. We've had the extra time to examine things. Let me get this to go away. All right, there we go. Hit the wrong button. That's what happens when you're live. But it gave 5 tips for being able to deal with this, 5 tips for being able to work through that and move towards that goal. Again, I think of it in terms of that goal, but things in terms of the alignment. I've really tried to think about work and life as far as alignment, where you try to bring things back to center, where things kind of deviate, and that's life. And especially the last year, things have really thrown us a curveball. And the way that our typical coping mechanisms that we've had for years, for some of us, they haven't been there in the last year. So we've really had to figure out, for a lot of people, I like this point because trying to achieve work-life balance is really about trying to mitigate guilt. And I think that that's a large part of the stress that we feel from work-life balance, is that somewhere along the line that somebody has made us feel guilty about our choices. And for a lot of us professionals, those of you who are entrepreneurs, professional people, we think that because we're an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, I'm a professional person, that I need to work. And that's the perception, that if I'm not working, that I'm lazy, I'm not committed. So I think internally there's that sense of guilt that we have, that we're not quite meeting up to what other people think that we should be as a business person or as a professional person. But whatever that is, whatever that source of guilt is, I think that is important to really figure out. And that guilt can come from, your family wanting to spend more time with you and making you feel guilty about that. And I'm not saying that part of the guilt is a bad thing, because our families tend to remind us what's important. And at the end of the day, that's why we do these things. That's why we run businesses. That's why we work, is for the other half of it, to provide a life or a lifestyle that makes us happy. So I think that I like that idea of getting to the root cause of whatever that stress is. That if you don't feel that you're meeting that balance or that alignment, what is causing that stress? What is causing you to feel that way? And that kind of led into their second point, to home in on the emotions that are brought about by that stress. And I like the point said, after identifying the cause, they zeroed in on the resultant emotions. And I say this was a study that was done. I always like, analytics and statistics. So I liked, kind of the result of, people that didn't have lifestyle changes and continue to do things the way that they've always done it, and ones that have made changes and really evaluated things. It says they zeroed in on the resultant emotions, and did they feel angry, sad, or energized by that emotion? So that guilt that we have, does that energize us and make us want to work harder? Does it make us feel angry? Does it make us feel disappointed? But just being aware of emotions, and I think, we've all had a roller coaster of emotions over the last year. And I think that kind of goes without saying. But the point that they make was awareness of your emotional state is essential in order to determine the changes you want to make in your work and in your life. It says, I very often think the discussion of work-life balance actually masks something else. What we call work-life balance is actually just a proxy to having a sense of fulfillment and commitment, and contentment, rather. So if that's how you feel, if you agree that for a large part of it, our wanting to achieve work-life balance comes from something else. It comes from guilt or another emotion that we have. Please put that in the comments. Share that, because I want to keep this discussion going. I think we started this discussion over on LinkedIn, and I wanted to do this show to really breach this subject again as we go into the second year of work from home, or the hybrid workforce, hybrid office that we're all going to be accustomed with for some time. But I think I just wanted to throw this out in the forum of discussion to see whether or not that I'm out in left field, or whether or not there's things in this article that might be able to help you. But again, just share those in the comments so we can keep the dialogue going of what your definition is, and whether or not you feel that's important to reach that in your life. So the next point that they make is number 3 is reprioritizing, and I've personally have done a lot of this since I sold my last IT business. And I've done this a number of times, even over the last year, as I kind of find myself, I'm a workaholic, so I tend to find that I'm kind of bent to extremes. I work either too much or, not enough. But I'm trying to kind of balance that out. But that's one of the things that I've tried to do since my last IT business, because I was horrible at this. I was horrible at prioritizing what was important, because after running a business for 10 years, I finally decided it was time to sell that business and do something different. I reprioritized, because for the first 10 years of running that business, my son was born the year that we restarted our IT business. And after 10 years, I realized that my son just doesn't really know who I am because I'm working all the time. He just knows that Dad works a lot of hours. And that's what, I hope a lot of people do, because I think we're working more hours. And I've seen many articles about that over the last year, that people are working longer hours. And that separation at home from turning work off is more difficult. But I think taking that time on a regular basis to figure out, is working long hours worth cutting back on your family time? And I think that's where we have to examine that as entrepreneurs and as business owners. Are we placing that undue guilt on our personnel, on our people, to feel that they have to do that? They have to do that in order to keep their job. They have to do that in order to feel like like they're committed to the team. They're committed to the core of what you're trying to do with your business. But I think, again, this only goes so far for our employees if we don't meet them halfway, if we don't realize that need is there. But taking that time in our own lives and realizing that is important is key. So I'm going to flip over here. It is awful quiet. Let me make sure that the comments are working over on LinkedIn. So just give me a moment while we flip screens there. Sometimes this tech works good. Sometimes it doesn't whenever we're doing these live streams. Sometimes it's on my end. All right, so it's still up and running. So again, if you're still tuning in, let me know that you're there. That way I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. But yeah, just let me know if there's points in here that you agree with, or if there's things in this article that you challenge. There's things in this article that you might not agree with. But I think the fourth thing that kind of, as we go through the process, and I think, this is where we're going to have to re-examine what our expectation is of the people that work for us. Is there anything at work that can be changed to accommodate new priorities? So if you have people that want to reprioritize their work and give more time to their family, I don't think we can fault people for that. I think that's what we want, and that's how we keep happy employees. That's how we keep people invested in our vision of what we're trying to do with our company. But I this point, again, really struck me is it says we have unrealistic expectations of what we're asked to do on the work side. It says if your workplace isn't an environment where work-life balance is possible in the first place, any strides that you attempt to make toward it on a personal level will be in vain. And I think that, that is the point, that I got out of this, is that, I try to stress this to our coaching clients, because, we're all trying to recover from COVID. We're all trying to figure out, the next steps maybe for our business. And, we're still in that mentality. We've got to push people hard. And I think that, for many people, a lot of people are reaching, breaking points. It might be beyond that. So thanks for letting me know I'm not the only one talking to an empty room, Bruce. I appreciate that. But it really helped me to think about that if your employees, if there's people inside of your company that are struggling with that, they're struggling that maybe they're working from home for the first time, and they're still, after a year even, trying to figure out where that separation is. because they don't know. They don't know whether or not people are happy with them. I think there's just so many unknowns that people have fear. And I think that that's what we need to do as leaders and as business owners, is to kind of allay that fear. And we need to reinforce that right now, that we're committed for people trying to find alternatives that work for them. And for our employees, it might be different things. That was always a challenge for me with an IT company, because, for those of you who are watching that are IT companies, you know the challenges that have come about over the last year, that a lot of IT companies have played nonstop. They've played lights out for a year, right there with the healthcare workers and, the frontline delivery people, but they don't stop. It's 24/7 for IT people. And I think that, we're kind of reaching a dangerous point in the channel, and it kind of scares me. I'm going to talk about that in a couple weeks with Pete Matheson, who's going to be on the show. We're going to have him back on the show because he's seeing the same thing in the IT channel, that so many of the IT folks aren't taking enough time to consider. They're not taking enough time to reprioritize. They're not taking enough time because they don't feel like they have the time to evaluate things in their life. And I think that's a dangerous place to be. And I think that there's a lot of bad things that can happen if our IT folks aren't there. But again, it's just one industry. But that's just what I see. If you see things inside of your industry, that are reaching dangerous levels, please share that. I also want to share, what goes on. I'm very familiar with the IT industry just because I spent 30 years in the IT industry. But I think that was a great tip, to be able to consider alternatives and to help our people consider alternatives to work, and being able to balance that out and help them find that alignment in their lives. Because for some people, it's just, it's difficult. It's hard for them to figure out how to do that, because they've never had to do that in a traditional office environment, maybe, where they can just, close the computer, go home, and work stays at work. But I think, that is a challenge that's not going to go away anytime soon. And then the last one, once you realize that there's alternatives, you realize the need to change, you realize what you need to fix to get that alignment back, then you need to implement the change. And again, this is where they talked about asking a supervisor for greater flexibility, or deciding not to take on every project that comes their way. This is for those people that are working for others. So it's a two-way street. It's a two-way conversation that needs to continue to happen. Because that's, I have seen this kind of domino effect as we've gone into year number 2, where the pandemic basically burned the rule book as to what we used to even think of as work-life balance. It's completely different. It has reshaped working lives for people all over the globe. And this is, again, the new prevalence of remote work, flexible work, even hybrid working models, which I mentioned earlier, says those will likely play important roles in how we balance our professional and personal lives going forward. So this just it isn't just for people running companies. We really need to think about, our people. And that's difficult to do, sometimes. If we don't have the awareness ourselves, it's going to be very difficult to help other people kind of get to that awareness themselves. But yeah, so if you have any other tips that you would add to this, if you have anything that has worked for you, or that is working for you, or that you would like to do, please drop that in the comments. Let's keep this conversation, let's keep it going. Because I think that, not only internally inside of our own companies, but I thought about, when I ran my last IT company, one of the things that we regularly did for our clients was quarterly training. We had lunch and learn events at our offices, and it would not just be around technical conversations. I like to be able to solve business problems. And this, to me, is a business problem on a couple levels. Those that are in leadership positions, and it is a problem for staff. But I think it's a problem that needs to be addressed and worked on together. And again, it is difficult to do when we're not in the same office building, or we just don't feel like we have that camaraderie when we're all working remote. But if you have clients that you think that this subject would appeal to, why not have this conversation? Why not have a webinar on this to get this conversation started, and trying to help those in leadership position, that your clients be able to work through this issue. So if you have things that have worked for you, or of other people that have successfully addressed this, why not help your clients do that? It doesn't have to just be about technical conversations. And it's kind of amazing that a lot of people think that just because you're the IT company that you can't go in and have those business conversations. But I think that's what makes you different. That is what anybody can come in and fix computers and, set up routers and switches and all that stuff. Not everybody has the capability of taking that technology and solving business problems. And that's what our forte was. And that's what I believe we still help our clients to do, is not go in and sell the technology, sell the outcome, sell the result of what you're trying to help them implement. And this is one of them. Technology is such a large part in our lives right now that that's not going to go away. We're wrapped even more to our devices than we ever have been before. But again, I think it's important that this conversation, it continues, because like I said, it's not going anywhere. But if there's something again, if you're watching this on the replay, if there's something that you will want to share or a takeaway, please put that in the comments. I watch the comments long after these episodes are live, and I always like to keep. It's amazing that conversations for shows that we've had a couple months ago continue to happen, and I think that's the awesome thing about doing these live streams. The people who can't tune in live are able to easily flip over and watch it after the fact. But those of you who are still hanging out, I appreciate that we've got this discussion going, because I think it's an important discussion that it needs to continue. I see it being, like I said, a bigger problem as we go forward. But I want to be able to help. I want to be able to help people provide solutions. So, all right, that's going to wrap the show this week. Then, I just wanted to again, I'm going to hang out, see if there's any more comments that come in. But again, I'm always appreciative of all of you who support and watch this show every week. And one of the ways that you can show support and help us keep the lights on here, got some swag over at orangenomad.com/merch. You can be cool like my friend Robert Gibbons here, supporting the Team Orange hoodie. But we appreciate that. And we appreciate helping spread the do what is necessary message. And again, this is really, it's been a tremendous labor of love for me doing this show. I'm always appreciative of the comments that people have, the comments that people share, those of you who chime in and make this show possible every week. It's been a tremendous labor of love for me. So Bruce, work-life balance is for everybody, not just business owners. If we are full-time, you're going to you are going to be at work and in the company of your colleagues for 30 to 40 hours a week, 1,300 to 18 hours a year. So yeah, it's definitely important to be able to figure out where those boundaries are. So thanks again. Like I said, this is music therapy for me on Wednesday evenings as well. I tune in and watch Drake White, who streams live at 7 Eastern time. So those of you who are tuning in from the UK or Scotland, like my friend Bruce, may not be able to catch this show. But yeah, it's He started this live stream. I think he's at almost pushing 60 weeks of going live. This is part of my routine. It's part of my finish my therapy at the end of my day as I tune in. I love watching, Drake's energy and the things that he does. I like this. Bruce, business owners have a responsibility to create a supportive working environment where everyone can show up as themselves, enjoy their day, and leave at the end of the day fulfilled. I literally could not have said that better, Bruce. But again, this is the responsibility. This is the privilege that we have as business owners, is being able to, it's not just about feeling privileged to give somebody a job. It's helping them create the life that we're all meant to live, that we all have the right to live. And that's what this show, again, is 100% dedicated to doing what is necessary for you, not what's necessary for me. So, one more shot of Bruce. Man, we appreciate it. Bruce is carrying the show for the comments this week. So do that, and work-life balance may not even be a question. I agree with you, my friend. I agree that if, more business leaders stepped up and just stopped feeling like it's a privilege just to write somebody a paycheck and help people invest in their lives, that definitely can make a much more greater impact on people's lives. So thanks again for tuning in to next week. We've got in the next 4 weeks, we've got some amazing interviews coming up, covering a number of different topics, from entrepreneurship, mental health, all kinds of things about running a business, marketing. So stay tuned the next 4 weeks. I think you're going to be excited, and we potentially have booked another guest in a few weeks that we were trying to line up this afternoon. So that will be a surprise. It's probably one of my biggest guests yet. So thanks again. I will see you on next week's show. I appreciate you again tuning in to this week's show, and I would very much appreciate it if you could share this with somebody else. So tell your friend, tell your dog, tell your neighbor about this show and about the Do What Is Necessary live stream, this Do What Is Necessary movement. And I hope to see you on next week's show. As I end every show, always stay humble and kind. Always do what is necessary. I'll see you next week.